Social Security and divorce. Social Security retirement benefits in terms of Social Security spouse benefits, Social Security surviving spouse benefits, Social Security divorce spouse benefits, independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. If you don't know what that is, stick around. All right, my name is Ed Weir, former manager of the Social Security Administration. I've helped hundreds of thousands of people file for actual retirement and surviving spouse and spouse benefits when I actually work for Social Security Administration. I've helped millions of people out through my channel and making sure you're getting all your benefits, everything you're entitled to. This is my new mission in my semi-retirement. A lot of changes are going to be coming around based on the fact that Social Security is having a tad bit of a solvency issue over the next 9 years or so that we need to address. So I've talked about that in a whole bunch of other videos. All right, enough stalling, as they say. Let's go ahead and get into the topic of the day here, divorce. So first thing is, I see a lot of social media people out there. I think I spend most of my time talking about, okay, somebody made this YouTube video or TikTok video talking about this with Social Security. They have no experience. They've never taken a claim, but somehow they're experts. So I spend a lot of time correcting social media stuff out there. All right. In order to get divorced spouse benefits, you've probably heard that you had to be married 10 years, which is correct. There are exceptions. That's the thing about Social Security. There's exceptions to the exceptions, exceptions. It's over 20,000 pages of policy. I've read it all a few times over the decades. And generally that is correct. Okay. So if you are currently not married and you were married to someone for 10 years, it doesn't matter if you were married to 3 people for 10 years. When you go into Social Security and you're 62 years old and you're going ahead and file for benefits on your own record, that's what the Social Security employee, the claim specialist says, ask you is, were you married for 10 years or longer to anybody? Yes, I was married 3 times. They have to go through the entire, all 3 of them. They get that first person, the second person, the third person, and they look at the records and they say, okay, we're going to go ahead and file a claim on your record, but it looks like you're entitled to more money on the second person's record. So we're going to go ahead and file a spouse claim on the second person because you were married to that person for 10 years. So you can pick whichever one's the highest. And the 10 years, there is an exception. I had to look this up in terms of how many people this applies to. About 5% of people remarry the same person they divorced. So this goes out to those 5%. Basically, if you married someone for 5 years and then get divorced and remarry that same person, the same person by the end of the next calendar year, and then we're married another 5 years, Social Security can add those 2 periods together to make 10 years. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with their paltry Social Security check that has some more money and they don't think they can get it because they weren't married 10 years. Because they got divorced, but that's fine if you remarry the same person. All right, another thing. So the independently entitled divorced spouse. Here's one that's a lot of people are struggling out there. So please share, subscribe, like, and all that kind of good stuff. So this information goes out to more people and people get the benefits they're entitled to. Independently entitled divorced spouse. Independently entitled divorced spouse is if you're 62 years old, and you're about to file for benefits on your own record, and you're like, well, I didn't work that much because I was married and that person made most of the income, but that person is still going to work. And just to spite me, they're not going to file for retirement. And so I can't get any benefits on that record. That is 100% incorrect. If you're receiving benefits on your own record and your ex-spouse is at least 62 years old, then you can get benefits on that record. It's called independently entitled divorced spouse. I've taken thousands of these claims when I worked at Social Security Administration, and they're relatively easy-ish. You just have to prove you're obviously a marriage and divorce, and there's a couple other things you have to do there because that other person hasn't filed, and you don't have to ask their permission on any of these divorce benefits. That's one of the reasons a lot of people are not getting the benefits they're entitled to, is they say, well, my ex-spouse has remarried and has a new wife or husband and has kids. I don't want to affect that person's benefits or the new kids or anything. Doesn't affect. There's things called the family max. This is where a lot of the internet messes up out there. They say, oh yeah, there's a family max, the maximum you can pay out to a family. Yes, there is for that family. Not for divorced spouses. That family max does not carry over to divorced spouses. So whatever you collect from your ex-spouse will not affect their new spouse or their kids or whatever the case may be. It's completely separate. And they will never even know. If you don't want them to know, Social Security won't tell them. So they will never know. It won't, reduce their own check again, or their spouse or their children. So a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of people out there that say, yeah, Ed, sure, there's $400 more money out there, $500 more money out there, but I hate that person so much. I don't want anything from so much hatred build up in the divorce and whatever. And I try to convey to those people that it's not from them. That is a benefit that is sitting there in the trust fund in the bank in Washington, sitting there with your name on it. And again, your ex-spouse will never know about it, won't affect them. But sometimes I win that battle and they go ahead and collect and get that other $400 or $500. But sometimes people say, I don't care. Anything associated with that person, I don't want. So what are you going to do? If you need help with Medicare, Medicare Advantage, Medicare supplements, Part D plans, make sure you reach out to my partners at Chapter of Medicare. I looked for a place that would help you all out, and Chapter of Medicare knocked it out of the park. They've got excellent customer service. They look at every single plan in your area, and their help is always 100% free. Give them a call, and they'll see if they can help you out, and tell them Dr. Ed said hi. And another reason a lot of people are struggling out there, again, please, if you know somebody like this, please tell them to file and get their money, is ex-spouses during the divorce, them or their lawyer try something sneaky by putting something in the divorce decree that says, okay, we're getting divorced and you get nothing. You don't get, the 1982 Honda Civic or the 72 Chevelle, and you don't get the dog, you don't get the house, and you don't get my Social Security. 4 of those things, there's okay. The other one, no. Social Security doesn't care. When you bring in your divorce decree to show that you were married to that person for 10 years, again, I've done this thousands of times. The only thing Social Security does is they look at your marriage certificate, bride, groom, date of marriage, divorce decree, defendant, plaintiff, date of divorce, and that's it. Those are the only 6 things they look at. And they don't look at, it says here in, third page that they're not going to get the Social Security. So I guess you're not going to get the Social. No relevance. Nice try, lawyers and ex-spouses, but no relevance whatsoever. And again, a lot of people out there are just walking around struggling, and they've got $400 or $500 missing from their monthly pay that could really make their life easier. So please, let's get the word out there. Current spouse and divorced. If you're currently married and you divorce, your benefits will terminate unless you were married to that person for 10 years. So if you married someone and you started receiving spouse benefits on that person's record, and then you divorce after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, then technically you're supposed to notify Social Security and your benefits will terminate. However, if you were divorced and then you were married to that person for 10 years, then you're just entitled as a divorced spouse because you were married to that person for 10 years. So your benefits will continue. Okay. A lot of people are going to misunderstand this. I want to make sure I get this correct, to convey this correctly. So if you were married to someone, you're 65 years old, and you married someone last year and it just didn't work out, you were receiving spouse benefits, you're receiving benefits on your own record, and that person was still alive and kicking, and you're receiving spouse benefits on that person's record, and you get divorced, your benefits stop. If you were married to that person for 10 years, doesn't matter. You're entitled as a divorced spouse because you were married for 10 years. But under 10 years, then technically your benefits stop. What if you remarry someone? If you remarry someone and you've been receiving benefits and 10 years or something like that, your benefits stop. But there's also a 1-year duration that you had to be remarried to the new person. So if you were married to someone and then you got divorced, started receiving benefits, and then you remarry, your benefits stop because you've remarried. And normally you have to be married. You have to be married to the new person for a year in order to collect spouse benefits on the new person. However, there are exceptions. Everything else, Social Security, is exceptions. If you have been collecting Social Security benefits prior to when you married, And the new person is obviously receiving benefits as well. So if the new person, your new spouse, is receiving benefits, you're entitled to spouse benefits. You don't have to wait the year because you were receiving benefits last month from the previous spouse. So there is an exception there of the remarriage of the 1 year duration rule. But if you're single and you just marry someone and then you file for retirement benefits, and then you want to go ahead and file for spouse benefits, you can't get those spouse benefits unless you were married to that person for 1 year. Okay. All right. So it's a little bit confusing. So many people miss that one, including, okay, I want you a cautionary tale here. I tell people about all these exceptions, the exceptions, and they go into the Social Security office and they talk to the people in the front windows at the Social Security. And I ran the third busiest office in the country, and I trained my people very, very well. But there's over 1,500 offices throughout the country, and the people at the front windows are what's called CSR, customer service representatives. So the hardest working, lowest paid, but also they're not experts. They know a little bit about everything, and sometimes that can be dangerous. And if you tell them something about independently entitled divorced spouse or the 1 year marriage exception or something like that, they will probably say, no, that's incorrect. And then you say, well, thank you for your opinion. I would like to talk to a Title II CS. And Title II is the Title II of the Social Security Act. A CS is a claim specialist. I want an appointment. I want an official decision. And then I guarantee you, then they will set you up an appointment. Or if you walk in, it's called FEI, front end interview, where they just help you out right then. And then the Title II CS, the claim specialist, the retirement expert, will say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, they were wrong. I'll after I take your claim, I'll go up there and tell the person about, educate them. So I get a lot of people that I tell them this, and then they call me and they come into my live Q&A and said, hey, Ed, I followed your directions yesterday, and I went in there and they said no. And so I have to send them the policy. And actually, let me go ahead and do that for the independently entitled divorced spouse. I'm going to go ahead and put the policy in the chat right now before I forget. And that is a good segue to, let me type in here, independently entitled divorced spouse. So there is the policy in case you ever go into Social Security and you ask them about that.